Hello, this is Teacher Blue from Qkids. In my last video, I talked to you about some of the pros of being an online teacher, some of the positives. However, I want to be fully transparent with you and just kind of give you some of the negatives today with online teaching with Qkids. Now, I will say that there's just a very short list of things that I kind of feel like could be negative for some people. For me, it's kind of changed. I've kind of gotten used to the things. But the first thing is the time difference. With communication, with the time difference, if you email them when it's night where you live, more than likely it's early morning where they are. So if you email them with a concern, a question, or whatnot, you're probably going to have to wait a little while before you hear back. It's not going to be that instant response that you sometimes get whenever you're in the same time zone as who you're emailing or who you're texting. So the time difference is something that you have to get adapted to. So if you have a question or anything like that, expect it to be anywhere from 12 to 24 hours before you hear back from the company. Qkids, they do all of their work in-house over in China, so usually they don't outsource, so therefore it will be a little while before you hear back from them. The second thing that I want to talk to you about that some people just can't deal with are the early hours. The early hours just really bother a lot of people. Right now, as it stands, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to prepare for my 4:40 a.m. class, and that's on Central Time. So, a lot of people say there's no way that I can do that, and so that might be a negative for you. However, I will say this, as time has gone on, I've adapted to that early morning, and actually I like it better because, I'm finished with my work, and I can have the rest of the day ahead of me. So even though it is an early time, I make my coffee in the mornings, I get up, with 40 minutes before class to kind of prepare, kind of get ready for the lesson. And, by the time it's over with, I'm kind of wound up from teaching 3 or 4 classes. And so really the early hours haven't bothered me, but it might bother someone. And the last thing that's been a challenge for me is communication. The communication with with people in China is a little different. You can't take for granted that they understand everything that you're going to say through email. And so a lot of times there's that language barrier. Some of the things that you might say through email might not be understandable to them. So, the communication is sometimes a challenge. Never assume that that they're going to understand what you're saying. You might have to follow up with another email. And it's nothing against them. It's just English is their second language. And so there's going to be that challenge of communication sometimes. But, that's really and truly, those are the three things. Time difference. There's a 14-hour difference between Central Time and Beijing time. The early hours are sometimes a challenge for others. But I will say this, with the early hours, if you cannot do the early hours, you have Friday nights and Saturday nights. You can get 5 classes in on those 2 days if you would prefer nights. So if you're a night person more so than a morning person, then take full advantage of those Friday and Saturday nights. And also, at certain peak times, peak seasons, they will offer more night classes. So like, for instance, in the summertime when I got hired in June, I was able to, really load up on my night classes. I could do night classes all throughout the week, Monday through, I think every day offered night classes. So during the peak times, peak season, when students are off from their regular school, there's a lot more night slots open. So, if mornings is just not your thing, then that's a consideration, is that there will be more night slots open depending on the time of the year. And then the communication thing, again, patience is a virtue. Be sure that you're patient with them. They are extremely kind people. All right, I will say that. So while communication might be a challenge, it's also something that you need to go ahead and be sure that you're patient with them, because that English is their second language and they're trying their best to communicate as best they can. So be as clear and concise as you can with your emails, and just be to the point, and more than likely you'll have a good experience with your email correspondence with the company. But those are my three things. Like I said, a very short list. My experience has been great otherwise. But, today I just want to talk to you about some of the cons of Qkids, just so that I can be fully transparent with you. If you have further questions, please feel free to comment. Feel free to subscribe for more updates about Qkids and online teaching. And thanks a lot.